Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Health Chats podcast. I am your host, Kelsey Grieveson, and you have a solo episode today. I want to talk about community because now more than ever, humans need humans. And I feel like I've already been talking about this for the last few years. I have not only been talking about it, but I have been building it through my brand Humankind, where I have run community events and done everything in my power to try to bring humans together because I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, we had this pandemic and it really shook the world. And I know it really shook me up personally, and a lot of building community events. And not only that, but also like really diving into my friend group and like curating almost this what feels like perfect group of human beings in my life. It came from a really low that the pandemic caused in my life. And I know not everyone experienced that. I know it didn't really like shake you all up in the same way, but I would like to share how it shook me up and like what that looked like. And then kind of give some frameworks around building community if maybe you're someone who still feels stuck in, call it isolation or loneliness, or just like not feeling like you're connected with your people, because I know that feeling all too well. Even like pre-pandemic, I never really felt like I had people. I didn't feel like I had my people. I felt really lonely. I identified as someone who didn't have friends. I latched on to a partner who I was with for a good chunk of time and was very codependent in an unhealthy way. And I'm just a completely different human because of this framework. And so let's rewind back to 2020, the honestly fucking scariest thing that I've lived through, the most anxiety, the most stress that I've ever freaking experienced. So I was working in a gym back then. I had my comfortable job and I had my routine. I would go to the gym early in the morning, do my workout, work from like 11 till 7, sometimes till 8. And then I would go home. I would either cook dinner, someone would cook dinner for me, and it would be like rinse and repeat Monday through Friday, sometimes Monday through Saturday. Saturdays, honestly, I don't even remember what I used to do. But then, big halt to that, COVID hit. And I remember it was like March 13th or something. It may have been like Friday the 13th too. I don't know. I haven't looked back. But we were cleaning the pens. We were at the gym and we're like, wait, what? Someone somewhere in Asia is like back in Canada and like they brought this virus. And oh my God. Today I just talked to someone who said they just flew in. Should we clean the pens? And we literally started cleaning the pens because we're like, everyone touches pens in this gym. And it's funny to think back at like what was our first reaction. And then, of course, as things played out, eventually gyms ended up closing. Then they were opening and they were closing and they were opening and they were closing. And being in the wellness industry during that time was brutal. It was absolutely brutal if you worked in a gym because they had rules that just did not make sense. They being the government, they were like, yeah, okay, well, the gyms are open now, but when you walk into the gym, you need a mask to cover your face. But like if you're on a machine, you can pull the mask down. And it just like, didn't add up because it's like, okay, well, my hands are dirty, but here I am touching my face. And yeah, it really, really, really fucked with my mind. And I'm sure a lot of other people's mind. That's like the Cliff's notes of what we went through for a few years. But with that happening, I go back to how I started this is I was in a really comfortable routine. I was going to my job every day and suddenly it was pulled out from under me. And for the first time, I had a chance to sit with myself, and that was really uncomfortable. I had never really done that before. I was busy at work during the day, and then I would come home and I would watch a show or I would scroll on TikTok. I remember I was so addicted to TikTok back then too. And meditation, it wasn't really a concept that I had like experienced much of, not to the extent that I live and practice now. but I suddenly had all the time in the world. And so opening that time and that space in my mind and in my life caused a lot of anxiety. And this episode, this is not about meditation. It's going to move into community building. But I think a lot of people can probably relate to that, whether you were also laid off during that time, you were given the gift of time, which is what I look at it as now, had so much time and have now been able to build and create my life because of that. So I'm very grateful for it. But in the moment, I was having panic attacks. I would wake up in the middle of the night in a panic, my heart just like palpitating. I thought I was having a heart attack. I went to the hospital multiple times. I remember just like everything feeling like it was closing on my body, but at the same time, my body was like trying to push it out and like expand. If I could describe the physical feeling, that's what it would be. And I would go out on my balcony and just like try to breathe fresh air. It was so cold, but I like needed to feel something other than what I was feeling in my body. Like there was no disconnect from that experience. And yeah, going to the hospital, they were like, "Hey, you're anxious, like try these meds." So I ended up trying anti-anxiety pills and just like going through that whole process, which again, now that's been a long time. And I learned that none of that worked, not for me. I'm not really up for pharmaceuticals, not today, and probably never going forward now. But yeah, it really, really rocked my world. And so coming out of that, where the world was like, we're going to isolate you. Y'all have to stay 6 feet apart anytime you go anywhere. Grocery stores, remember following the arrows down the different aisles. Oh, you can't go that way. Like it really had, and I can only speak from me, but I will say us probably quite a bit in this episode. It had us like on our toes. Like we were walking on eggshells, just living life, just doing normal daily life things like going to the store, like filling your gas up and feeling like you need to sanitize your hands right after. I remember coming home sometimes and I would strip all my clothes at the front door after being like in a grocery store or wherever I was because I was scared. Like I was living in so much fear that the virus would be on my clothes. Like my winter jacket, I would take that off and put it right in the washing machine. And I know I'm not the only one who did crazy shit like this, so I'm happy to share it. But yeah, so that all happened. I think many of you were there, unless you just like fell asleep through those years. And because of that extreme isolation that I think we collectively experienced, that is where I was like, okay, humans need humans. Something clicked in my mind. And this was actually after many months of trying to build online business and succeeding in building online business. But I was like, I can't just be this. It needs to be more than this. The online business thing has been incredible and has created opportunities in ways that I just like, I don't think I could have ever imagined working a regular in-person job from like 11 till 7 for 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And at the same time, it has continued that disconnect with human beings. We're behind screens more frequently than we're actually seeing each other. We are on social media feeling like we know what someone's life is when really we have no idea at all. And I don't say this to any negative, like I see the light and the dark in all of it. It's wonderful that I can see my friends in Germany and what they're doing. If you're listening, it's so cool. I love that we're still connected and we haven't seen each other in years. And I would just love to hug you. I would love to see you in person and like look in your eyes and really have that human experience. And so humankind was built out of that. It didn't get its name until after I did it for a couple of years because it was just under my name and that made the most sense. But I built that with so much fear, I will say. Like it was not easy because as humans, we are creatures of habit. All of us are. I have conversations quite often with people where they're like, well, I'm just like such a creature of habit. I can't do that. We all are creatures of habit. It's just whether we move past the comfort zone that we create in our lives or not. It's not that some of us are way more habitual than others. I think it's that some of us are willing to see that habit if it's serving you, and if it's not, pushing past it and getting into the discomfort, which is often like a lot of mindset. It takes a lot of mindset. And so I think the truth there is that like you don't lack motivation. It's not that you're not motivated to do it. I think it's the lack of proximity to the things that you know will help you expand, and like not really knowing how to step into that or like where that might exist. So that's what this episode is about, is like, okay, how can you do that? What is the model? And I wrote down a model that I think makes the most sense with this, because what I found through my own experience and conversations is most people, they try to build discipline in isolation, which, if we really look at it, is biologically pretty stupid, because humans, forever and ever and ever, we have evolved in tribes. We didn't evolve by ourselves in our bedroom, working from a computer screen. We evolved by being around our people who have maybe a little bit more courage. And so we saw that and we mirrored that and we felt that influence. We were like, okay, my best friend can do it, so can I. And the truth is, like, you can't outperform your environment long term. Like, if you're in your room and you're like, no, I just got to like keep working on myself, there gets to be a ceiling that you create for yourself. And you can't outperform that. You need human beings. You need connection in order to actually do it. So here's the model. Environment creates your identity, which creates your behavior, which creates your results. And I know that sounds like, phew, like what the heck is she talking about? Let me explain. So community will upgrade your identity faster than willpower ever can. And coming back to that, like, what is your identity? If I go back to myself, I love using myself as the example because I've experienced life every day for 28 years. And so it's the most comfort, I guess, in talking about this kind of stuff. So if my environment was the gym that I worked at for 5 years, I was there for a chunk of time. I would be there for more hours a day than I would be at home with my partner, or that I would be maybe at like a cool, I don't know, personal development coffee thing. Or I remember going to Tony Robbins for like 12 hours one day way back then. If we really look at that environment, the most time that I spent, it was at the gym, around the same people, in the same office every day. I would have conversations with new people, but they would be like 30-minute chats. So not enough for me to make much of an identity shift until the world shut down and was like, ooh, you're going to look inward. And I realized, oh, okay, my whole identity was tied to what I was doing for a living. And now I have space with myself to rewrite that identity. And many people will get similar opportunities, or maybe you did. And instead of looking at it as something that's happening for you, you looked at it as something that was happening to you. Like, oh, the world shut down, this pandemic happened, woe is me, this sucks. Like, you're so attached to this other identity that you curated in your life that when anything shifts it, again, being like, I'm such a creature of habit. Yes, we all are. Anything shifts it, it's like it's happening to you and it's their fault. They're being the government, the universe, the world, the whatever. It's everyone's but your own opportunity to make a shift in how you're living. And so I looked at that and I first was rocked with wicked anxiety and stress. And then I was like, okay, whoa, I can actually choose. Like, I actually have time to choose who I want to be, who I want to be surrounded by. And this wasn't like an overnight thing. This took years of me first isolating and doing it solo and traveling solo. And I absolutely needed all of those experiences because it helped me gain the courage to then figure out, okay, who do I actually want to surround myself with? So in that, getting to know myself through the couple of years of solo travel, I then realized that, I'm passionate about a lot of things, fitness being a huge one. Fitness and, mindset and nutrition. And like, I love creatives. And so going back to that environment, I started seeking out places in Calgary which aligned with those values. And so, first place I came across, it used to be called Socality House. Socality is an incredible creative brand. I will absolutely plug them all day. They're doing things all over Canada and I think down in California too. And what they had back then was this house which doubled as a coffee shop. And it's cool how like law of attraction, when you really know yourself and like what you want, things will just be sent to you. So I was walking down 17th Ave, Calgary. If you're in Calgary, you know where this is. And I was going to go to the gym, but I was like, you know what? I want to check out that house. It looks cool. I've seen it here. I don't know what's inside. There was a sign that said coffee. I love coffee. So coffee, it will pull me in. And I walked in and I was like, something's cool about this place. I don't know what it is quite yet, but there's like photos all over the wall. There's like a big surfboard. There's pretty lighting. And I ended up hanging out there for like almost 2 hours, chatting with a random stranger about all things purpose of life, creativity, like what we do and why we do it, and just like deep, deep stuff, deep chats that Kelsey loves. And so, environment. The environment, it showed itself to me because I knew kind of like who I was and what I valued, right? And so that's kind of one example of it. Another example is, not really waiting for things to come my way, but knowing, okay, I really love fitness. And so I'm going to go to fitness classes, Inside Out, Total Wellness, best fitness studio in the whole city. If you've never been there and you're from Calgary, go check it out. Hanging out there, I ended up teaching classes there for a little bit, which again, seasons of life, and being around the people there who are growth minded. They're similar. They're like, yes, I want to push my body. I want to fuel my body. I am going to have conversations that aren't about, life happening to me, but what am I excited about in my life? And so again, environment, feeding more into my identity of like, okay, yeah, I can be growth minded. And then back to that framework in both places, when you're in the right environment and you understand your identity with more depth, then your behavior changes. And that behavior for these specific examples was, all right, when I'm at home, when I'm by myself, and when normally maybe past version of me would be a little bit lazy and just like scroll on her TikTok, which I swear, you guys, I used to be so addicted in like 2019. I wish I could go back to the screen time, but I think I would spend like 4+ hours straight scrolling on my phone. This current version of me, she could never. And so behaviors changed. Going home when I'm in my own time by myself, it's like, okay, yeah, this person who is now inspired and influenced by the people that I'm surrounding myself by, she probably wouldn't do that. Like she would probably spend this spare time meal prepping and going on a walk and drinking water. Like I don't think she would do those past things that Kelsey would do, right? And so from that, of course, I kind of want to bring in like the science, like mirror neurons. We have these mirror neurons in our brain, which literally reflect what we're around the most often. And so humans are mirrors. We see each other. We can never truly see ourselves. We look in the mirror, yes, and you can see this reflection of you, but you only see the identity that you've created and curated based off of what's been influencing you in your life, your environment, your community. And so literally who you are around is who you become, which is why if you've gotten comfortable and maybe you're going to the same bar every Friday with the same people you've always gone to with, that you went to high school with, you don't really feel like you're growing. Like you might feel kind of stuck in your circumstance. And it's to no fault of your own. Once again, it's just that is what your environment is. And so that's what you're going to get when you look at your behavior and you look at your results. And so the book, that I recommend, it's called Influence by Robert Cialdini. I've had this book for a long time, haven't read it in a while. Feels like a good time to pick it up again. But yeah, it's a pretty big read, but it'll explain pretty much everything that I'm talking about here. And so that's kind of the root framework for maybe why you're in the place that you are currently, or maybe why you feel uncomfortable going and seeking out community. Because that's the other part of this is like, one, we need community. We need it because it's how we become who we are. And if you want different results in your life, you need to be around people who are doing different things. But then the second part is like, okay, how do you do it? Like, how do you make this change? How do I go out and seek community? And if it's not seeking, like, how have I gone and built community, right? So I have kind of like a 4-step framework because I feel like frameworks are helpful. If you're listening to this and you're taking notes, love that. So, number 1, audit your current circle. Who in your circle reinforces this old identity? Because if you're listening to this, you're likely questioning the habits and behaviors and the things you're doing in your life because the results you have, you're just not happy with. And there's nothing wrong with not being happy with your results. I think sometimes we can get mixed up with like gratitude, like, well, I should just be grateful for what I have. And you can absolutely be grateful for what you have and also want something different. You can love your life. I love my life so much here. And I'm going to Bali for like 6 months or more because I want something different. I want to continue to expand myself and my identity. And so look at your current circle and who is reinforcing your old identity, and look at who is challenging you. Who in your group, and maybe it's the same group or maybe it's a different group because we all have like multiple different humans in our life. Who are the people who challenge you? And maybe it feels like a trigger where you're like, ooh, like when I hang out with you, it triggers me, but like in the best way because I know I'm expanding and I know I want more. And then when you do that audit, I never like to say like, peace out to the people who reinforce. Like, don't do that. Humans should not be cut off. I think everything should be done with kindness and like gentle grace and slowness. Any extreme, for me anyways, in the past hasn't really led anywhere positive. So this might take a sweaty palm conversation, which is uncomfortable. And I think those people who maybe do reinforce the old identity, if they're meant to be in your life, they will understand and they'll meet you in that conversation, in that healthy communication of like, hey, I'm not really loving going out to the same place every Friday. And it's not you, again, not blaming them. It's not you. I think we've just like kind of gotten into this same old routine. And this Friday, I'm going to go to a yoga class instead. Or I'm going to stay at home and read this new book that I just heard about on this podcast called Influence. Like taking it into your own account for why you're choosing to do different things. It takes a lot of courage. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's definitely uncomfortable, especially if you've been in this same current circle for so long. And then also looking at those who challenge you. How can you spend more time with them? Ask yourself that question. How can I get around these people who, when I'm with them, they're challenging me? My beliefs feel like, they're being expanded, but not in the way that you feel like you're being gaslit, but in the way that you're like, oh, yeah. Oh, I never thought about it that way. Okay. And I'm talking to the open-minded people right now. If you're closed-minded, none of this will land. None of this will make sense. But yeah, those people who challenge you, how can you get around them more often? Look at what they're doing in their life. What do they do on a Friday? What do they do on a Saturday? What do they do through the week? Like, what does their life look like? Who do they identify as? And then start bringing in components of that into your own life. And then inserting yourself. So this is number 2, inserting yourself into proximity. And again, courage. This takes courage. I will never sit here and be like, it's easy to just like start going to a new fitness studio or show up to a run club by yourself or volunteer. Guys, this is hard, and hard is a good thing. If it's hard, it means that it's expanding you and it's growing you. And again, if you're listening to this, you're that type of person. That's what you're looking for. So if you're not around it, again, the mirror neurons, your brain won't be able to like fire and wire and understand what it's really like to live that way, right? Like we evolve in tribes. We do not do it by ourselves in our basement. We do not do it by watching a YouTube yoga video. We do a little bit. Like, I won't lie there. Yes, that will help you maybe gain a little bit of the courage and confidence in your body. And I'm going to go back to yoga because I'm a yoga teacher, where you're like, okay, yeah, I understand now what a vinyasa flow is like. So maybe I'll feel a little bit more confident when I go to an in-person class and I see that I showed up at the same time as another solo person and I say hi, right? Like it's little steps like that. Another, I guess, proximity would be masterminds. If you're like, I really want to expand in a specific area, because we have yoga, we have fitness, we have running, but maybe it's business. Maybe you're like, I've been building this side hustle that I haven't told anyone about, and it's all online and it's on my Shopify store, and I'm like drop shipping, and I just like don't want to tell anyone about it. You're not going to learn how to succeed in it if you don't learn, if you don't actively go out and like try to learn. So finding masterminds, finding places in your city that are running things. And again, do it in person if you can. If there's stuff happening in person, go do that. We are behind computers way more than enough times, way more than enough hours in a day. Passion. Number 3, become the connector. And this is what I can relate to the most is I felt back when I first started running events, I felt like they didn't exist. And they probably did. I just like didn't look hard enough and I like to push myself. And so I was like, okay, I'm building business online. I'm building online clients that I'm working with, and it's lovely and it's amazing. And I still feel unfulfilled for some reason. The coach I was working with at the time, she was like, we're going to stop tracking metrics. We're going to track soul connections. And every day, I want you to get at least one soul connection. And I was like, ooh, that makes me feel good, like spiritual Kelsey. I need that in my life. And I first started trying to find that online. I would book calls with people, enrollment calls, connection calls to eventually turn them into clients because that was the goal. And I was like, still not fulfilling. So then I started going to cafes and I was like, okay, I'm going to be courageous and just like say hi to someone and see if it goes anywhere. And again, wasn't really finding like the deep connections. It would happen every so often. Then I was like, okay, I got to get more specific. I need to host yoga events and throw back to the cafe Socality house. Talk to them and was like, is there any way I could run an event here? Like, what would that look like? And they were like, oh my God, yeah. Without going into the details of all of that, I ended up running like 9 events there over a summer. So pretty much one every week. And these were called like meditation and mindfulness or movement and mobility, movement and matcha. And I ended up bringing together my people into one space where I had way more soul connections than I could have ever even imagined. And again, wasn't easy. It took courage. It took effort. It took planning. But if I can do it, this girl who, flashback a few years ago, worked a job that was like an 11 to 7, 9 to 5 type situation, came home every day, did the same thing, had anxiety and panic attacks. Like, why can't you? And there is always space for this too. I want to say that it's not oversaturated. So whether it's an event like that, which was like, I think super cheap. I think it was like 10 or $20 per person. Didn't make money off of it. If I look at my bank account now, I'm not like, yeah, that's why I have money saved. No, it was strictly for the soul connections and like the fulfillment of being around those type of people and the reinforcement that these people exist. Because if you put it out there, they will come. They absolutely will come. So maybe it's, hosting a walk, hosting a yoga event. Maybe it's not even that big. Maybe it's like, okay, there's these people I follow online. They're in my city. I'm going to create a little group and be like, hey, I feel super inspired by you guys. You're doing stuff in the X space, whatever space that I really like. Curious if you all want to grab coffee. We can have like a little mini mastermind or like a micro circle or something. Like, why not try that? I'm going to try that now, actually. Last one. And this one I would say is one of the most important is raise the standard. So whether this is in your current environment or in this new environment that you're building, no gossip. Gossip is such a low vibration. We should not be talking about other people. Why would we talk about other people? Other people's business is not our business. You should not be bringing up like, he said this and she said, dude, are you 12? Get out of here. Stop listening if that's stuff that you're interested in. No victim language. So no, "Ugh, this happened to me and like, oh, it's so cold out and like it's because of that I couldn't go to the gym." Like, bruh, grow up and share your goals. And this I understand, like even just this step 4 is really hard for people because you might see that we connect quite often with our current group, like with the circle you have now, and who can complain the loudest, whose struggles are the biggest, who has the best gossip to share, like what happened that week at your work, and like, ooh, this is just like we feel good talking about this kind of stuff. And rarely, which is probably why you're in the same situation you're in, do you talk about what you're excited about and what your goals are. And it doesn't need to be an extreme where like you don't share what, is hard and what hurts. And, we all have struggles. But I think the difference between someone who is that connector and is moving forward and feeling like they're growing and they're feeling more fulfilled is, yeah, they complain and then they move on. They have a solution. They're like, okay, yeah, it felt so good to get that out. Yeah, it pissed me off when I tried to start my car and it didn't start this morning. And then once it started, I went to the gym and like felt so much better after I went to the gym. Like there's a shift there in your dialogue. And so raising the standard for where you are, whether you build the community yourself or whether you find it, you'll hear it. You'll see it now that you've heard this. You'll see that people get together and they're like complaining. Can you be that different person who's like, hey guys, this conversation is like, not really inspiring me right now. I'm curious, what are you actually excited about? Like, what are you working towards? And like break the pattern. And some people will be so triggered by that that they're like, I'm going to go find a different circle who wants to just like stay in this vibration of just like fear. So that's number 4. And I guess the biggest thing to close this is don't wait for your community. Like if you are struggling with being at home and you're still in that isolation that has just like rippled into X amount of years later from the pandemic, because yes, like I will go back to that. That is why I don't think we struggled as deeply before COVID happened with the isolation. I think it was definitely there and loneliness has always been an issue. But I think because that happened, again, utilizing that as the catalyst to what can we change? And now that we see this as a problem, how can I build the solution for it? How can I go out and like seek it? You can't wait. It's not going to come to you unless you change your vibration and you change your identity, which you will do a little bit by yourself, but you need people to help you do it. So that's it. And so 2 questions that I'll leave you with. Who do you need to be around to become the next version of you? And what room do you need to walk into this month? I'm leaving that for March. This is how we're stepping into March. March, to me, it feels like kind of like this growth month because we've passed January, which is like extreme diving into all of the resolutions. We're at the end of February, where February, a lot of people give up on their goals. But stepping into March, it's this new sheet, this new piece of paper where you can really be like, okay, anything on here is for me to write. Any story that I want to live, I can write it down. So I want to leave you there. I hope this was valuable. If you have any questions about my previous humankind events and like want to know more of the story of where that came from, please send me a message. Send me a message on Instagram at Kelsey Grieveson. More than happy to talk about it. If you felt like this was valuable, send it to a friend, family member, share it on your social media. And if you could leave me a rating or review, that's how I will get this show to grow even more. So thank you, peace and love, and we'll talk soon.